Hello and welcome to episode 89 of Webflail. I'm your host Jack, your failure connoisseur, and today my guest is Christina Liubynska. She is constantly juggling different projects. With Supercharged, she helps early stage startups by consulting, designing, and developing websites that bring them higher profits and happier clients. She also freelances with agencies like Nexus Creative with Dylan Harrocks and ViDesigns with Vimalam Vijayasekaran. With Navbar Gallery, another project that she's working on, she's building the home for the best navbars on the internet. So she's one of those insanely multi-talented and curious people that is just constantly building. And get this, she's only 22. So clearly she's talented. Clearly she's pushed her comfort zone a lot to get to where she is. And naturally, failure has been part of her story, just like any successful webflower we have on the podcast. The failures that we'll talk about in today's episode are 1, not building an audience earlier, 2, wasting a year designing for free in a startup, and 3, not getting any projects or work in nearly a year. Whew, some heavy things to talk about in this episode. Christina, welcome to the Webflail podcast.
Thank you.
It is an honor to have you here because, like I said, you are a young gun in the Webflow space, and I like to have guests that are at different ages, different experience levels, all successful in their own right, because I think there's a lot to learn from everyone. So, an easy first question to ease you in, Christina. What is your relationship with failure?
I think that for the longest time, and even though I'm pretty young, still for the longest time, my relationship with failure was pretty bad. So I looked at it as, okay, I failed. There's no turning back. I have to do something else, start something new. But time after time, project after project, I've learned that failure is really a stepping stone. It's an opportunity to improve, to become better, because you really have no perspective if you do not fail. You have no perspective, if you instantly succeed, then it's all easy. It's not that interesting. But if you have a few failures under your belt, then it just becomes more rewarding, everything you do, and you get to learn so much. I feel like we learn much more from failures than we do from successes.
You should host this podcast. You should. I mean, you said it exactly. Every good story needs conflict. Yeah, I definitely think if you're looking at failure as an opportunity to learn, then really it's not failure. You're kind of just going through life as a curious person that's constantly improving and getting stronger. So completely agree. So tell me a little bit about your fascination with navbars, because I think that's a really interesting part of your story. Tell me about the Navbar Gallery.
Well, yeah, I'm just generally a very curious person, and I really enjoy design just in general. I really enjoy, websites. I enjoy mobile apps. I enjoy when people put their best effort into things, and especially with software. It's not a physical product where you can kind of touch it and you can flip it around and you can take a look at it from different sides. Everything is digital, so every pixel, it can have meaning. And I really enjoy when people put their best efforts into things. And as a designer, I spend a lot of time going through different websites, through different curated galleries, whether it is footer design, maybe it is minimal gallery or curated design or godly website. I really enjoy those types of websites because they help me become a better designer. They help me see the best of the best. And I realized that, as designing, the one thing I would skip is always the navbars. And why skip them? Like, there's the first pixel. They're usually really the first pixels of every website. And I tried finding some inspiration for them, but I just couldn't find anything. And I saw amazing people building footer, and I realized that the same should be done for navbars, because footers, they're amazing, definitely can be turned into so many creative ideas, and they give you the call to action to act on any website. But also navbars, they direct you through different pages, and they really are the first frames that you see. So they should really get more love than they do right now.
I love that answer. Yeah, they are the first pixel that most people see. So that's a really interesting insight. And often people don't necessarily think about the website architecture as much as they should. And I think really great navbars indicate that they've really thought through the UI and UX of a website before just jumping into build. So that makes a ton of sense. So you're clearly someone that is multi-talented, like I've said in the intro. I mean, you've got design skills, you've got development skills, but after stalking you on LinkedIn, you went to the Sushlik Business School. Is that right? I've pronounced that terribly, haven't I?
It's Schulich School of Business. Yeah.
Schulich School of Business.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were clearly interested in business before then finding your way into design and development. Is that right? Can you tell me a little bit about your journey there?
Yeah. So just from a very young age, I was very interested in just getting into business, building startups. And really, the reason for that was my parents, because they have a business. And I saw from a very young age the freedom it gives you, you working for yourself versus you working for somebody else. I realized that that's what I want from a pretty young age. And so naturally, so I was born in Kiev, Ukraine. Really, I was always looking, to go somewhere abroad, North America or Europe, where I could broaden myself through education, through higher education, and I realized that, well, business school sounds good. I'll be able to learn so many different skills, and maybe I like consulting or finance or accounting. I'm not sure, but I knew that I have to start somewhere. And it just seemed very logical, to go to a business school and learn many different trades, kind of, and then try and apply that into whatever I choose to do next. But really, with development and design, it started really early on. So I used to really enjoy drawing. And in schools, when I was bored, I would just draw a lot. And it was nothing, it was just a hobby, basically. But I just found myself in a constant state of flow, which I realized later in life when I was kind of thinking what I should do. And I just kind of took a piece of paper and wrote down the things that I love to do. And all of them were creative things. So it was about building something, about designing something. So yeah, I just started quite early on just doing designs, just learning Photoshop, learning video editing with Final Cut. And I just realized that, I get lost in time when I'm doing that, and continued down that road. I got my first few freelancing gigs doing video editing at when I was 12 and 13. It was nothing major, just very small jobs for very little pay, but I was very excited about it. Yeah, I put a lot of effort in it and just really enjoyed the creative process. And I was very bad, but still I was able to bring some value to the clients. Yeah, from that I realized that, well, you don't really have to limit yourself by your age, because even at a young age you can be bringing value as long as you really put yourself out there and you do your best. So that really gave me the confidence to continue with learning new tools. And Webflow came around. I think I saw a video on YouTube from Ren Siegel from Flux Academy, and I saw, wow, like there are just so many things that can be built with Webflow. It's a no-code tool, and coding scared me at that time. So I just played around with it, didn't give it much thought, and then years later I returned to it when I wanted to build a website for a camp I was volunteering at, basically.
Wow. Okay. Backtrack. So you saw your parents with a lot of freedom from a young age and you were like, okay, I want to build my own business. You also wanted to move abroad. So I guess online skills, you were thinking, okay, if I know about design and dev and online stuff, then I can go from there. And it sounds like your business school experience really helped you kind of learn the language of business, because I notice on your website, you talk about being a consultant as much as a designer and developer, which I think is quite interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about, how your business school experience has really influenced you as a freelancer today?
Yeah, well, first of all, just going to a good university. I think that many people, especially in the freelancing world, they don't really, give university the respect it deserves, because really, I mean, it depends from what country you're coming from. But I think that coming from my background, university gave me just so much as a stepping stone. It gave me so much confidence in my own abilities, in it gave me presenting skills, it gave me skills of just critical thinking, and it really pushed me out of my comfort zone, which wouldn't have happened if I just found that same information online and learned it myself, because I was able to meet so many amazing people and was able to meet so many amazing professors. And I saw many examples of how freedom can look like in different professions, and it really helped me to broaden my kind of spectrum of opportunity. So I saw the world not very limited anymore. I saw it as, oh, I have an opportunity here and here and here, and I have so many choices. So let me just choose something that I really, really love, instead of just going to the first offers that's being presented to me, kind of.
That makes tons of sense. Okay, I've got so many questions. So Webflow came in after video editing, but you started video editing, like you said, super young. You've been curious, you were learning different tools. And when did you get your first clients and how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so my first clients were actually pretty much forced clients because I was volunteering at a camp back in Ukraine, and it was a Christian camp. So, and we were making some really cool programs for kids. It was a lot of creative stuff. And I realized that, people are constantly asking for our website because they want to, prove that we are actually normal people, normal camp, because you're sending your kids somewhere. So you want to see some social proof at least. So I just started watching some YouTube videos about how to create websites, and I started with coding. So I learned a bit of HTML, CSS, and I realized like how difficult it is to then update it. There was so much I didn't know, and yeah, it was my first kind of stab at it. I opened Adobe XD at that time and tried designing a website. It really looked really bad. I can't really find the first mock-ups now, but maybe I'll be able to. But it looked really, really horrible. I remember that. But still, we had a website. After a few months of me trying, we had a website, and we were able to get people coming into the camp through the website. So I really saw value in that. And from that, I think my fascination with websites started because I was doing a bit of UX, a bit of graphic design, and I realized that like websites really put me in a state of flow very easily. Because if you're doing some graphics for social media, it's all kind of over the place. So you don't really have, you kind of have to repeatedly do the same work over and over. But for a website, you can really put 100% of your effort into it, into copy, into imagery, into everything, and then it's there and it's constantly giving value. It's constantly there, it's constantly online. So I just fell in love with it basically. And after trying to code it, I then came back to Ren Siegel's videos. I purchased the Flux Academy's course and started learning Webflow, basically. I learned it from YouTube, from Webflow University, from Flux Academy, and also did the course as well. And it really helped me. It gave me, obviously, the skills, but also the confidence that I can actually, put this into reality. And I think as soon as I just started working with Webflow, it was a bit of a learning curve, but as soon as I hit publish and saw that, wow, whatever I just put on the screen, it's actually live, it's responsive, the animations look amazing, much better than anything I could have ever coded. I just fell in love with it. And there was no looking back for me. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And then you were freelancing from there. You, I guess, had clients in your network. So you were like, hey guys, I'm making websites now, sharing your work. More clients came. And then you started working for agencies or freelancing for agencies. Was
Well,
that how it worked?
Well, that would have been very logical and rational, but actually, after making that website, so that was before I started university. So I decided that, this is just more so child's play. I'm not going to make a career out of it. It's just something on the side. So I thought to myself, maybe I can make, some money here and there doing this, but I wanted to focus on studying. So I went to university without any thoughts of, oh, I might be freelancing or not. And I just gave my all basically to studying and doing my best to see whether or not I can actually, succeed in business school and then maybe go into career of consulting or something similar. So for me, it wasn't a very linear process. It was more so I have a bit of a success here, but then just stagnation, 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 and then failure, 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 and then, some successes basically.
But then you were clearly like, okay, I really just want to do the actual work itself. Like the whole idea of freelancing, I think, is quite intimidating for people because you've got to wear a lot of hats and, there's feast or famine. And you're like, okay, I've got to think about like a CRM and like a sales pipeline. And you're like trying to do the work and then share the work and get more work. And it's a lot. So what you seem to have decided to do is be like, I want the freedom of freelancing, but I also just want to do the flow state of actual creative work. So what you seem to have done is approach different agencies and be like, hey, can I just do consistent work for you guys? You deal with getting the clients, but I'll just do the work. Is that why you've decided to follow the kind of permalancer for agencies route, a set amount of hours a week with different agencies?
Yeah, so for me, the reason I decided to do that was more so to kind of broaden my skills because I feel like when you're freelancing, it's so easy to feel a bit lonely and to feel a bit kind of stagnant at points, because even if you're doing everything right and you're getting more projects and clients, and even if you're getting dream projects, it's very easy to stay at the same place. But if you put yourself out there and you work with other people, you learn from them. You see, their journey. So I think that that's very valuable. Being a freelancer, I love freedom, definitely, but to me, freedom is being able to really earn the money that I would like to earn, be able to spend any time of the day where I want to spend it, and to work on what I love. So, and it may be in 5 to 10 years, I can see myself going into more so business like ventures. But right now, I really love just working with people, learning from them. But to answer your question of whether or not this was something that I came up with right away, it wasn't. So I first year, second year of university, I did just a bit of freelancing, but I didn't really give it my all. I had some clients here and there, and then only third year of university, I decided that I'm going to spend all of my free time doing freelancing. And really, only after graduating, I did freelancing full time. And that's when I started working with agencies. So before that, it was just, some clients here and there, mostly just family or friends. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. This is a really, really important point that I want to focus on, because when people try and freelance, I think there's a lot of things that aren't really said. You've got to wear a lot of hats. You've got to get the work, also do the work. So you've got to be on the business, in the business, like you're trying to work out what to do. But the other thing is that you're in a bit of a silo. You don't actually learn from other people in the same way that you would in a team. And in Nexus Creative, for example, you've got Dylan, who's really knowledgeable. You've got Glenn McWhinney, who is a king. Shout out Glenn, super knowledgeable guy. And, you are going to like fly if you choose to do your own thing after that, Christina, I'm sure. And I just don't think that's actually talked about nearly enough. Like, there are people who are better than you that you can learn from, who are going to just absolutely supercharge your career, to use your own URL there, supercharged. So yeah, I just think that's a really important thing to say. A lot of the most successful freelancers in the space have worked in-house or, for different agencies for years before freelancing. They've worked for multiple different great studios. It's like they've just absorbed all this knowledge from all of these different amazing people. So I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a really important point. Before we dive into the failures, you mentioned the word freedom a lot in this first part of the podcast. What is freedom to you? Are you successful in your eyes? Are you reaching the freedom that you want to reach?
I think, yeah, that's a good question. So in my eyes, I think I'm getting there. I wouldn't say that I'm quite successful yet, because to me, the ultimate freedom is, to be able to work when I want, where I want, to be able to earn the money, not only to cover just my basic needs, but also to be able to save, to invest. Yeah, but I'm definitely, I think, successful in the most important part, which is finding what you love and doing it. Because I think that it was a big decision for me after my in my last year of university. Deciding what I want to do, because I had a pretty disastrous year before that. So my third year of university, and I really had no clients, no projects coming in whatsoever. So I had to decide whether or not I want to stay in this and do it full time, or whether or not I want to actually go into a more corporate type of job, doing consulting. And yeah, that was a big decision. So I just went with what I knew that I would love more. And the best part is that I still had the safety net. So if it didn't turn out so well, I was able to then maybe go back and take up that corporate job that I wouldn't like as much. Because the good thing is that it turned out to be actually good. And I realized that that's something I want to do for the long term.
Yeah. It sounds like this idea of being in a flow state is a big part of, what motivates you to do the job that you're doing. Like, and you're kind of a consultant anyway. It sounds like you're,
Okay.
if you're consulting with clients, I think the best freelancers are not just good at doing the creative work, but actually asking the right questions to get the right answers to then do the creative work really effectively. So I think you've kind of married those two things really well, the kind of creative and the inquisitive consultant that you are. God, you're like 40 years old mentally. It's wild. I feel like you're light years ahead of your age. Okay, let's dive into the failures. This isn't just about compliments, this podcast. This is about getting into the weeds. So tell me about failure number one, not building an audience earlier.
So this is, I think, my main failure, because I really realized that from this stemmed the other failures that were a bit smaller, some of them a bit larger, because I had a pretty low self-esteem for the longest time. I thought that, well, I'm so young, I'm still learning, and there is no way that somebody might be able to find some value in what I'm sharing. And I spent years consuming content, whether it was Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Dribble, and any other platforms. Just spent years and years following and really admiring lots of people, but I could never even picture myself, being also in that place of providing value for somebody else. I thought that that's just not for me. I'm built different, I'm introverted, but all of that was just, a lie I was telling myself. It was probably just because I didn't want to get out of a comfort zone that I built for myself. It was quite easy to tell myself, well, it's just there aren't any good clients, or maybe there aren't any good projects out there. But it was really much harder to face the truth and see that I'm actually not putting myself out there that much for good projects and good clients to find me. So it was much easier for me to cold call people and have zero guarantees when sending out proposals than it was to put that first tweet out, basically.
Okay, powerful. It sounds like you took ownership of your problems in a way that, you said, look, this isn't everyone else's problem. This is my problem, and I'm going to take action to deal with that. So that's great. For anyone that's listening and is like, yeah, but Christina, what does putting yourself out there even mean? Everyone says that phrase, put yourself out there. What does that mean?
So for me, at least, it means sharing your road journey, your road designs, your road development, just sharing, you basically, and finding the right platform for that, which I think is key, because I don't think that I would have been as successful if I did Instagram, because I just simply don't enjoy it, or if I did YouTube, because simply I find myself more drifting toward, Twitter. So it's just knowing what you enjoy, looking up at people who are already successful at it, and just, changing up your perspective to really see yourself in those people's shoes, basically.
Okay, really interesting advice. So what you're saying is find a platform that you actually enjoy spending time
Yes.
on, and then sharing what you do. So not just the finished article, but also just like process-based things, your taste. So maybe sharing other people's work as well. And slowly you'll start to build up a little bit of recognition on that platform when you consistently post. And was that how you got the jobs at the agencies that you got?
Yeah, that's really the main route I found to find just not only jobs at agencies, but also find your dream projects and clients, because you really don't have to search for anything. You're really always separated by that one video or that one tweet from, your dream project. And just realizing that, I just went all in, basically, and gave myself a few simple rules, like, just doing it every day, doing it very consistently. And I was able to very quickly find great clients through it, or the great clients basically found me.
And when you say the great clients found you, they literally DM'd you to say, hey, I love the
Yes.
look of what you're doing. You seem like a really cool person. Can we have a call? I've got a project. Was that how it kind
Yeah,
of happened?
exactly like that. So it was both with agencies and the same with individual projects. I went from really chasing after clients, being really disappointed every time a project didn't come around, or every time, something took very long, to just not even thinking about projects coming in for the next month, just because I know that, very consistently this platform brings new work, new projects. And yeah, the clients that are happy, they obviously stay for longer, and maybe they also have some other projects as well.
Okay, this is really, really interesting. So, when you were starting out, you weren't really too sure. You sound like an incredibly confident person, if I may say, but you characterize yourself as an introvert. And then you were just like, you know what? Get over yourself. Post every day, just have something that's a super simple process based goal rather than an outcome based goal. So, I'm going to post every day, no questions asked. I'm just going to post. And slowly things started to happen. I think for anyone that's wondering, is Twitter the best place to post? You're saying, well, that works for you, but any platform that you're consistently posting on, I'd imagine, may get those similar results. Is that what you're saying?
I think so because from my experience, from experience of other freelancers, some people do LinkedIn and they do it really well, because they enjoy it. They can see themselves there. They, just go there even without posting. Some people do YouTube like you, right? So you enjoy YouTube, you enjoy creating content, consuming it. And I also really enjoy consuming content on YouTube, but I could just never kind of see myself filming YouTube videos. Maybe that's something in the future, but yeah, I just couldn't see myself filming YouTube videos. And the best part about Twitter for me is that it has a very low barrier to entry. So, with YouTube, you need a bit of an equipment. There's a learning curve if you don't know how to edit videos, and it just takes quite a long time, right, to put those videos out. And if you're a freelancer who doesn't have any projects, it might be kind of luring to be in that space where I'm just constantly just creating content, but it's not very sustainable long term. And I realized that, well, I'm looking at the people like, I don't know, Jordan Hughes or Grace Walker, and they're able to find clients from Twitter and just from Twitter alone. And I realized that that's possible. So I just looked at the content that they're posting. I looked at the content that other designers are posting. And I really just, I don't want to say copied it, but I found kind of my own voice posting very similar pieces of content. So it wasn't even difficult to come up with the type of content because it's already out there. It's already having success.
Okay, great. A few things to note there. So, one thing is that the importance of finding a platform that you naturally like to hang out on, I think, is a really good indicator of where to start posting. And it's not like YouTube's better than Twitter or Twitter's better than LinkedIn necessarily. It's working out what's better for you personally. I think that's a really important point to make. And the other thing that you mentioned there is that some platforms maybe do have a little bit of a higher barrier to entry, but Twitter, you can literally screenshot what you're working on. Like, I think people have this idea that they need to put time aside to post. I've seen people put this type of thing on Twitter where they're just like, how do people have time to post every day? How do people? And well, I mean, I like to post quite a lot, but the reason that I like to post quite a lot is because I get to work, I screenshot what I'm doing, or I might be having a conversation with you like now. I might screenshot this and share it. And it takes literally 2 seconds. I don't think you necessarily need to have high curated, get into like After Effects and like make some kind of cool animation. I think that's where people are like, oh my God, how do people have time to do this every day? I actually think you do really, really well. You share what you're working on as you're working on it. Like, here's a sneak peek of a landing page I'm working on or whatever. And I just think that's an important thing to say, is it's not necessarily like you need to put in, an hour aside each day to do that as much as maybe people might think. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's true?
Yeah, 100% fair. Sometimes I have ideas of tweets, and I kind of store them. Sometimes I just have a burst of inspiration. I can do a few tweets at a time. But really, it's just you sharing your raw journey. And I think that I enjoy it definitely. And I feel like other people also enjoy it, seeing the people that you look up to and that you find value from, just sharing purely, not only their successes, not only their losses, but also just their day to day.
Interesting point there. So let's say someone's listening to this, Christina, and they're like, I really want to post more, but I've got nothing to post and no one's going to care about what I have to share because I'm too young, or I'm not experienced enough, or I'm not good enough yet to post. What would your advice be to those people?
Well, I think that I was falling within the same mindset. And to me, the only thing that helped was not, trying to overcome it in some superficial way. It was just literally hitting post on that first tweet and it being out there, it gaining or not gaining any traction. I just saw that, okay, well, now that that's over, I can just continue posting. Because as soon as you step over the threshold of whether or not, what should it be, or you just lose a lot of questions that you've had before. You lose a lot of the unknowns, and it just all starts becoming very clear and easy as you go. So it just becomes a habit, kind of. And it's not something that you need to force yourself to do. Most days, it's very natural. I just, share what I just have, or some tweets are scheduled, but it's all very natural. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy, replying to other people. I enjoy commenting on other people's posts. And it's just this kind of process of just your day to day, just improving basically.
Awesome. So, do your first post. If you are someone who is like, oh, I want to post, but I just don't know where to start and all that, just post something. It might be the sandwich you're eating. It might be, something on Figma that you're working on. It might be work that you did years ago and you're just like, hey, this is a concept that didn't go forward, but it's kind of cool. Just the more you share, the more it'll be easy to share. And the amount of conversations I've had recently with people who are like, oh, I don't have the confidence or whatever, just start. Just start. No one's going to give a flying fuck about it anyway. Like, I think there's this perception that you post and the whole world's going to be like, well, that was a terrible post. How embarrassing. It's like the world's busy. People are busy. Like literally just post. Get out your own way. Okay, I think we've hammered that point home. I could rant about this for ages, but this is your podcast. Tell me about failure number 2. Wasting a year designing for free for a startup.
Yeah, so this is a big one. So long story short, because it's a really long story, but I was when I was still in university, I was contacted by a guy to do some designs for his start. Specifically, he wanted the website designed. And after we talked, I made him an offer, made him a proposal, and everything looked very reasonable to me. And then he offers me, "Do you want to just be a part of the startup? And you'll have equity." And I was in a third year of business school, so like, wow, this is the opportunity I've been waiting to jump on. This is just amazing. I'll have a startup, I'll have all the freedom in the world, and I'll have equity at this young age, which is amazing. So I really jumped on the opportunity and I started to dedicating all of my free time, which at that time was 20 to 30 hours per week, including weekends, just designing. And from just having to design a website, it turned into, oh, can you do the web app and the mobile app, and can you also learn development for it? So I found myself being kind of part-time to full-time employee while I was still also juggling a university. And I don't know, I just fell into this trap of thinking, well, I'm young, this is an amazing opportunity. Anybody else in my shoes would definitely jump on it without really critically thinking. So we didn't have a contract in place, we didn't have any sort of kind of boundaries, because I was not only kind of an employee, I was an employee who was not paid for any work, was not compensated. And plus, this guy who I was working with, it was also his first experience creating a startup. So you can imagine the mistakes and the shortcomings along the way, not only in our communication, but also in just refining the idea and working on it and pushing it out there. It was quite a difficult year for me because I had the lowest confidence ever, basically in my own abilities and my skills. Even though I think I was doing pretty good design wise and I was learning a lot. It was just kind of falling into a trap of thinking, well, I'm too young, I don't deserve to be paid, and it's just the worst possible thing you can think if you're in that situation, because then you find yourself a year later, you have not really gained anything except for experience, but you're still at that same place, you still have very low self-esteem, and you still have that same belief that, well, I'm okay with not being compensated, I'm young, you get not appreciated by the person you're working with, and it's just really difficult to kind of also get out of that mind state.
It sounds like you learnt how important it is to set boundaries at a very early stage. Like you might think, oh, well, I'm too young. Like I'm learning loads. So this is great experience, right? Like I'm just going to keep doing this essentially for free I guess you hoped that equity would come out of this, but it didn't sound like a very healthy relationship.
Yeah, it definitely was not healthy. I just had this mindset that I'll work through it. Someday this will result in something good. So I'll just work through it, whatever. I'm young, I have lots of energy. But really, there's no reason to feel this way. There's no reason to stay at the same place, to not be compensated for your work. Even if this is your first project ever, I believe that you should still be compensated, even if it's a low pay. I feel like getting from a low pay to a medium, more normal pay is much easier than getting from zero to even, I don't know, like $10 per hour, of you working. Because once you have a threshold, once you have at least foundation, it's much easier to get forward with your compensation and with your career.
It's like price anchoring, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, was your partner getting paid?
No, well, it was just a self-funded startup, so you can imagine that I was also, putting some money into it, not as much as my partner. It was just kind of a, you could say, personal project that kind of had zero boundaries. Yeah.
Ah, that's tough. Okay. So if anyone is listening to this and they're like, Christina, I'm in the same situation. How do I get out of this? I'm kind of working for free, but on a like good trust basis, and it might go somewhere, but it might not. Like maybe they've got a Webflow client that's like, hey, there's plenty more work coming down the line. We just want you to do this little project and see how it goes. Like, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say that for me, what helped was just recognizing the problem. And my family, my friends helped me to recognize this problem because they, from a certain perspective, were able to see that this is not healthy, this is not normal. Because one thing is, doing it for the opportunity to learn, but at a certain point, you kind of stop learning. It just becomes the same cycle of, I don't know, just things that do not make sense, basically, and things that will not lead anywhere. So it was just for me recognizing that issue and then just sitting and having a conversation with a person. And, I was really scared to do that. Because I wanted to be agreeable, I wanted to be nice, and I also wanted to be thankful for the opportunity. But once I had the conversation, it didn't go nearly as bad as I thought it would. I just felt free for the first time in a year, and I felt like, okay, I have my whole life ahead of me. I don't need to spend, 20 hours every week doing what I think will lead kind of nowhere, basically. And yeah, just repeating that just because I signed up for something, a year ago. So
Yeah,
just,
that sounds really healthy. Have the conversation.
yeah.
Like, I think setting clear boundaries is one of the hardest but most important things you can do as a webflower because there's a lot of people that I've spoken to who are kind of people pleasers. They're just they just want to do the creative, and it's like
Yeah,
they're not
that's me.
necessarily, yeah, they're not necessarily, they're just grateful for the opportunity to like do creative work, but it really can become unhealthy unless you understand clearly what you want and then to communicate that in a respectful way. And you can say no respectfully, like you can provide a kind of clear boundary that lets the other person know, hey, I'm not going to do what you want, but here's what I think you should be doing moving forward, or I can put you in contact with someone else or whatever. But you don't need to feel like you're in a chokehold with work in the same way that I think sometimes we do. I've certainly been there as well. So I can really relate to this where you're like, with scope creep, it might be like, yeah, I'll just do this. That's cool. Like, I'll do that extra thing. It's not on the contract, but we'll do it anyway. And then it's like, oh my God, suddenly you're months in the red. Ah, man, having flashbacks to horrible projects. Tell me about failure number 3, not getting any projects or work in nearly a year.
Yeah, so coincidentally, that was the same year basically. I was working for a startup and I was trying on the side constantly to find projects, to find work. I was sharing designs on Dribble, on Behance. I was trying to cold call. I was doing everything that YouTube videos said, even cold emailing, and just I was trying, to find work from also sorts of different places, even like job boards and at university, but none of it came to fruition. And it was really difficult for me because here I was, spending all of this time working for free, but I wanted to earn at least something so that, I can at least prove that I can do this long term, because I really enjoyed doing it, but it felt at times as if, the world was not enjoying what I was doing and was not getting any value from it. Yeah, so in that time I had some projects that kind of had to, already succeed, but then something happened. Either the client, had different priorities, or the price was too high, even though it was quite low at that time, or just other things, when just life happens and just, I don't know, sometimes, projects not work out, which was a good lesson for me. And yeah, so in that time also I really tried to better my skills in Webflow, in web design. I was doing all sorts of challenges, designing every day, developing every day. And I also saw an opportunity in the Webflow's template program. And I created two templates for free, applied, with them to the Webflow template program. And a month later, I get a rejection. And I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but in the rejection, you don't really get any specific kind of things that you need to work on. So I improved the templates, created another template, and then applied again. And so that happened three times, and three times within that year, I was just rejected from the program. So I felt like, okay, here I am. I love Webflow. They kind of do not want me to be in the template program. Okay, well, that's a failure, definitely. Here I am trying to do design and trying to get clients, and all doors are closing. And here I am, spending so much time just doing the work that I love, but just doing it completely for free. So I just definitely throughout that whole year, I just had so many little like checkpoints with myself that okay, this is not working out. And yeah, so it was pretty difficult that year, but it definitely put things into perspective for me. I first of all realized that even though I'm failing, I love the work. So that's already something. That was a good kind of mindset and thoughts that came into my head at that time. And then I realized that okay, I need to do something radically different. The cold calling isn't working. I'm not really finding any work anymore from friends and family. It's not very sustainable. And I just started looking at different options. So I thought firstly, well, maybe organically, I can build a blog. Then I thought maybe YouTube, maybe LinkedIn, maybe Twitter. And I've narrowed it down to Twitter. And I think that this year of not finding any projects, any good leads, any good jobs ended when I hit the button to post my first tweet. Because after that, I also stepped over the threshold of having a pretty low self-esteem. I realized that okay, I'm starting with a clean slate. I'm doing this right. I want to, build a personal brand. I want to kind of be more vocal overall and share my designs with more people. And I feel like that's when things started turning around.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for very vulnerably telling us that, that year was really difficult, because it sounds like sometimes when the universe is like, nope, 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 and you're just like, shall I just give up? But it sounds like you rationalized it by being like, well, this is what I enjoy. So if I enjoy it, I'm naturally going to get better over time because I'm going to do this whether I get paid or not. I mean, you were doing it without getting paid. So you were just like, hey, whatever, I'm just going to carry on. And then you explored different options and then landed on Twitter being the thing. And this idea of building a personal brand, I think, is a really powerful one, because if people like, know, and trust you, they'll hire you. Like, I just feel like this cannot be said enough. I had a crazy experience sitting next to a guy in a co-working space, and we started talking. And I was like, hey, I'm Jack. What do you do? And he was like, Andy, I do this, da da da. And he was like, what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I'm working for this web design and web development studio. And he was like, no way. I actually need some help with a project. Mm-hmm. And like that turned into a proposal and turned into work. But my point is that this whole idea of putting yourself out there, as it were, and just talking to humans, just being like, I'm a human, you've got a problem, I can help you with that problem, is just so powerful. And I think if you take that kind of concept online, like just saying, hi, here's what I do, here's the work that I'm doing, here's something that I worked on today, here's just like that constant turning up and just sharing what you're doing and talking to other humans leads to stuff in a crazy, crazy way. So yeah, if anyone needs encouragement who's listening to the pod and is like, yeah, I really want to share more, but I don't know what to share or how to share or where to share wherever you hang out with whatever you're doing that day, and things will start happening. Christina is a great example of that. So thank you for sharing that, Christina. Is there anything that I didn't say there that you think, ooh, we need to encourage people to do this? Or is there anything that I didn't say that we should add?
I think you said it very perfectly. One thing that I could add is that, Sometimes just something that I had to realize after that year of not getting any work is that things take time. So even when you start putting yourself out there, whether it's tweeting or filming YouTube videos, or maybe you have a strategy of creating your own blog, or there are just so many different things that you can do. So once you start, you need to be in the right mindset of, okay, I've started, things are going good, but it just needs time, because I feel like it's so easy to give up once you don't see results. And you might have found the right thing, with the right marketing channel for your freelancing business, but it's just that you need to wait a bit, just a bit. Because just like your dream project, it will just not show up, after your first post, after your first video. It will not. You just need more. You need more time. You need to give people more time. And the same can be said in general about freelancing. I find myself boxing things into deadlines when they don't really need them. So looking at things more. So, okay, in this fiscal month, in this fiscal year, I need to get this and this and this. But I don't feel like life works this way. I don't feel like other people operate this way. And it's really important to give yourself and give other people time. Yeah. And I feel like if you really put yourself out there, if you post regularly, if you find your niche, you just need to give yourself a bit of time, and then you'll find your success.
God damn it, Christina. I was like fired up. I'm fired up after that. 100%. Yeah. Give things time. Focus on doing little and often, and things will go forward in whatever direction. Like, opportunities come with consistency, persistence. You don't have to be super smart. You just need to be consistent, is what I've found in life. And a little story on that for anyone that's interested. Webflail was losing money for well over a year. Like, I was paying a podcast editor and I was like, this is going to go somewhere. But I think if you have a kind of a long-term game plan, like, you know what, I'm probably going to lose money in the first year, but maybe I'll break even in the second year. Maybe it will be like financially viable in the third year. But if you have like that long-term mindset, then, and if you love what you do enough, I genuinely think that you can't help but win eventually. Like, you can't help but get the clients you want if you post every day for 100 days on Twitter or LinkedIn, or make a video, every couple of days or whatever. Like, it's just gonna happen because life rewards you with consistency, persistence. It's like the compound effect, You get better at posting the more you post. The more you post, more people see you, the more people share it. Like, stuff just happens over time. It's all in the long tail. Okay, amazing. That's a beautiful way to round off this episode. But before we do, Christina, I've got to ask you the most difficult question I've asked you on the podcast. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What is your next failure going to be?
Good question. I think that if I don't give myself enough space to brainstorm kind of what I want to do next in life, then a failure will come, because I'll just feel like I'm just in that process, of stagnation. I feel like if, as a freelancer, you're not constantly learning new things, even if it's something small, just getting better every day at Webflow, or maybe learning how web apps work, or learning to design mobile apps instead of websites. At a certain point, you just feel things aren't really moving forward, even though they are. So I feel like for me, it would be if I don't critically think of where I am at, if I don't appreciate it enough, and if I don't look at that next thing, because I feel like that's where the dangerous line is. Once you've had some success in freelancing, once you have your dream projects, your dream clients, I feel like it's quite easy to get sucked into staying at the same place. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're going to absolutely fly, Christina. You are going to fly. I mean, I'd love to have you back on the podcast in a year's time or so when you are running the country. Amazing. It's awesome to have you on the podcast and share as vulnerably as you have. Do you have any final words for any Webflail listeners before we wrap up?
Yeah, just don't feel alone in your journey, because know that there are many people just like me who had many failures, and who are going through failures every day, whether they're small or large. And you're not alone in this journey, and eventually you'll be able to find your platform, find your voice, and you'll be able to land those dream projects and dream clients. But you need to take it slow, take it one day at a time, and stay consistent.
God damn it. You should just, I should just give you the podcast. Christina, you have been an epic guest to have on Webflow, and thank you for sharing as vulnerably as you have.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.